So good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Great honor, delight, and above all excitement to talk about superstar Rajnikanth. Let me start with a very personal experience and story. In a method of madness of 4 people, including me, we embarked on a drive from Chennai all the way to Leh. As we were returning back from Leh via Kargil, Srinagar, Jammu, Amritsar, Bikaner, as we left the lush green fields of Punjab and entered the desert land of Rajasthan. It was a straight road with just sand on both sides. Long pedal to metal drive. We were driving and we saw this lone tea shop. And we decided to stop over and have a cup of tea. So we went and stopped. We saw an elderly gentleman, probably about 50 years, come out, greeted us, and he said, "Aap Madrasi hai kya?" We said, "Aapko kaisa pata?" He said, "The registration to TN hai." And the next question he asked us was, "Rajni saab kaisa hai?" We were dumbfounded, disbelief. Here is a man who's in a desert land. He can't even see a movie 60 kilometers away around him. And he asks about Rajni. And the next thing he says is, "Kya aadmi hai wo?" He didn't say he's a star. He didn't say he's a superstar. He said, "Kya aadmi hai wo?" We were sipping tea and we were coming back and we were discussing this. And I think that only a brand can cut across geography, religion, culture, language, and go and invoke the deepest emotions of a human being. To me, he has transcended all of this. Actor, superstar, talaivar. We believe he is a brand. And we researched to figure out if he is so. And that's the essence of this presentation. Now, this is about superstar. So we need a grand entry. So let me start with that. So, let's find some answers to whether Rajni is a brand. Did he consciously build this? Or it just happened as he traversed the path of his film. Alright. So the key question here is this man a brand? I think that's the first thing we need to answer. And we wanted answers to find out if Rajni is a star or he's a brand. And whenever you think of a brand, the first thing which comes into our mind is Apple. Today, Apple and Amazon is not a fruit and it's not a river. These are brands. So we wanted to find out, can we get some meaning out of what these brands are all about? So if you go and dig deeper into what a brand is, you'll find some common traits between a brand and Rajni. You'll find that there are frenzy followers, You'll find that it has evolved over a period of time, and many brands become international. It cuts across boundaries. But then there are possible areas where we didn't have answers. Brands normally associate with a unique set of customers. They have distinct brand characteristics, which, for example, IBM is very different from Microsoft. Apple is very different from Google. McKinsey is very different from KPMG. It has path-making products or services. And finally, most brands have got an equity value. But today, we don't know whether all of this is applicable for brand Rajni. So we went and started looking at the first step was establishing for our own satisfaction whether this man is a star, is a superstar, a talaivar, or he's transcended that to a brand. So we started looking at what is a brand. So whenever we think of a brand, the moment we say brand, the first thing which comes into our mind is a company, is a product. Sometimes it's a jingle. Even we associate the brand with the jingle. But it's not so. Most of the brand pundits say it is not the product, it's not the company. It's the feeling. It's the association you have with the product or the service, or even with the jingle. A brand is considered to be a promise, a totality of perception. It's an attribute, belief, value. So therefore it's not tangible, it's an intangible thing. And it has got certain unique characteristics. A brand is very akin to a human being. Just like we have individual characteristics, brands also have individual characteristics, just as I explained the difference between an IBM and a Microsoft. So, what is that personality of a brand? So we went further into this research, and we found that Jennifer Acker in the Journal of Marketing Research, she had analyzed about 250 brands across the world, and she came up with a set of characteristics which fulfill a brand by itself. So what are those characteristics? Sincerity. Down to earth, honest, wholesome, cheerful. A brand should be creating excitement for its consumers. Daring, spirited, imaginative, up to date. It should be competent, reliable, intelligent, and successful. It should be sophisticated, and it should be rugged. If a brand has at least 85 to 90% of these characteristics, it will start establishing an emotional connect with the consumers. What we got is what we saw. From a brand characteristics perspective, this man was clearly sincere to his profession. He created excitement for his audience. He was a competent actor. Definitely he has performed roles which no actor has performed before. Very sophisticated, upper class, charming guy. In fact, it's very surprising that women comprise bulk of his audience. And obviously he looks very rugged and tough with his steely edge. He's not a tall guy, but he's definitely a dark and handsome guy. So in all respects, he fulfilled the characteristics of a brand personality. So we got a little bit more confident that we can start thinking of Rajni as a brand. There were lots of other brand pundits who gave many definitions of a brand. They said it's an essence of a unique story. They said it's a simple visual that communicates what it's all about. The moment you see the brand, it starts communicating a lot of things. It connects with the customer, it motivates, it creates user loyalty. It's a set of expectations that makes it the first choice. Today, if there is a Rajni movie in town, that's your first choice. You wouldn't go to the next movie. You would want to go to his movie to figure out what it is all about. I'm sure the same feeling is there today with the release of Kochadaya. And it's a vessel for customer experience. You buy a Mont Blanc pen, you relish the feel that you have a Mont Blanc plumped in your pocket. When you drive a Merc, you get a feel that you reached the upper echelons of the society. So brands create a customer experience. it also gives a nice emotional aftertaste. You come back, and as you keep the brand, as you keep consuming the brand, there's a lot of nice emotional aftertaste of the brand. And when we looked at all these definitions, we saw Rajni there. And therefore, we concluded, definitely, he fits into the definition, characteristics of what the pundits have propounded, what a brand is all about. So, can we then conclude that Rajni is a brand? No. We need to see how he built this brand. Do brands come overnight, become successful? No. It goes through stages. So what are these stages which these brands go through a typical life cycle in its years of existence in the world? So let's look at the chronicles. See, brands have got its own life cycle. A brand is launched, and sometimes there's fanfare, sometimes it's a very soft launch. The brand comes into the market, people start knowing that there's a brand in existence. It emerges, people start talking about it slowly. Hey, there's a brand available, this service is available, this product is available. It then becomes a power brand. And then it attains super status. Nestle is a kind of a super brand, which has got all-round products and which services different types of consumers, from dad, mom, child, to young kids like Kit Kat chocolate, babies with milk food. And then finally it reaches a stage where it develops a cult. And we'll talk about it in the next couple of slides. But the problem is, they can all fall away at any stage. Look what happened to Nokia, look what happened to BlackBerry. All reaching a stage of super status, power status, falling off because they didn't follow consistent branding strategies. So what we did was, we looked at Rajni's chronicles, we looked at brands, we looked at what brands did at various stages of its life cycle, and figure out what did this man do. And we tried to establish a concordance to find out if Rajni did this consciously at the time when he launched himself. Did he move to the next stage by using good branding strategies? Let's examine that. The fact of the matter is that this man never launched. He came in very, very softly. In fact, he was introduced like Shruti Bedam, cacophony. In the first movie he came in. He came in tattered clothes. He didn't come with, I'm the superstar. He came very softly into the movie, which was completely dominated by another emerging superstar with terrific actors in that movie. He came, saw in a character role and escaped. He came, we saw, but he did not conquer. He had a very, very low-key launch. Yet, he did some things which made him get to the next stage. The key things which he did at the time when he launched himself was differentiation, focus that enabled the emotional connect. See, when he came into the period of 1975, there was Nadigar Tilagam, there was Makkal Tilagam, there was Makkal Kalaignar, there was Kadal Mannan, and there was the emerging Kamal Hassan. Now, he had to position himself in this war, in this competition. What he did was, he came up with differentiation. In the initial movies, people said he's copying Shatrughan Sinha. The throwing of the cigarette was a copy. But then in all the movies which came one after the other, the first 8 to 10 movies if you see, he did differentiation, domination. Every movie was differentiation. Avargal, you go Gayatri, you go Bhairavi, all these initial movies, he did differentiation. And he focused there. He focused on the differentiation to capture an emotional connect with the consumer. So what the consumers did, when they saw this differentiation and a consistent focus on that differentiation, he came in as a comedian, he came in as a character artist, he came in as a villain, he came in as a one scene in a movie, and he captured an emotional connect where people started imitating what he was doing on the silver screen. See, typically most audience would like to imitate a hairstyle of an actor, the dress he wears, the song he sings. But this man, they tried to emulate his style. They tried to throw the cigarette, they tried to toss the glasses, because that differentiation, and he kept on focusing on that, that enabled to get the emotional connect. A very key strategy he adopted was carpe diem, seize the opportunity. Never did he say that I want to be only the hero. He did a small role, he did a bit role, he went into another language, did a smaller role. So he seized opportunities that came his way. He knew very clearly that the great artists took a long time to establish themselves. And so he decided not to copy them at all. And therefore, he established credence, which enabled him to move to the next status. And that's what most brands would do at the time when it is launched. If you take any branding strategy, they will tell you, you got to differentiate, you got to focus, and you got to develop an emotional connect with the consumer. We researched about 50 to 80 brands, and we found great concordance with what this man has done and what the brands themselves did. That is the first stage where he enabled himself to launch, get a connect, and move to an emerging status, where he became an emerging brand. And that was the launch of his first film as a hero. He started dominating as a lead actor of a movie. So, what did he do when he reached an emerging brand? See, one of the things which is very important for a product is visibility. When a new brand is launched and people are talking about it, when I come and tell you that there is a new toothpaste, and this new toothpaste is really good, you want to go to the supermarket and then spot it immediately. Visibility. That's a very key strategy for an emerging brand. But what did Rajni do? A very tricky thing. Now what he did is we analyzed some of his early films, and we found that in a scene where the heroine dominates, for example, and it's a very emotional scene, and she's dominating with a long dialogue, a lot of emotion, but this man attracted attention of the audience. He did something stupid. He did something silly, but his objective was gain visibility. Whatever role he did, even if he was just passing by in a scene, he did something which made people look at what he's doing. And whether he did that consciously, or the director told him to do, or whether he thought this is an emerging brand, therefore I should do this, we don't know, but that's what he did. He believed very clearly that he didn't want publicity. You could never find stories of him coming and giving interviews in Stardust, in Filmfare, in Kumalam, Vigadan, nothing in the early days. But people wrote about him. People went behind him, found out he was a bus conductor. People went behind him, found out that he was, roaming in the streets of Madras and trying to get a role in any film. That he was sleeping in front of Midland Theatre. All these stories were cooked up by the media, but he never did anything. This strategy was a great strategy, which I think he learned from Alfred Hitchcock. Hitchcock never did publicity. People went behind Hitchcock to find out what was his next movie. And Hitchcock wonderfully attracted audience to his films. And that's what Rajni did. Very important thing which he did was he started opening up his private life. And he started telling that he's an authentic fellow. His authenticity was far-reaching, that people could not cook up any other story about his background, because he had already told that. Now, if you look at an emerging brand, that's what it does. The emerging brand wants to gain visibility, whether it's a supermarket, whether it's a store, whether it's hearsay. When you go and talk about the new product, the guy was supposed to pick it up from his store and give it to you. So that's what he did to move to the next status. But then, it was already about 5 years. And the entertainment industry is a real spoiler. So he had the best of money flowing in. He had the most big popularity in the streets. People started talking about him. So he knew he was a very popular commodity. And he probably got overwhelmed. and the media wrote him off. So the first fall happened. So his audience were very anxious, what's going to happen? And then he came up with Dharma Yuddham, the war of Dharma. And in that, he clearly demonstrated that he is an authentic actor. Through his competence, he established himself that he is there to stay and move to the next status of being a power brand, because by that time, he had started working as the lead role in most of the films. What happens when the brand reaches a power status? So when the brand reaches a power status, it's very important that it stays there. It can't fall off. Because you've already done a lot of hard work in establishing, emerging, and coming into a state where people know about you. And you've got to do something. Somewhere around 90s, there was a very great book published on branding called Archetype Branding, where the brand pundits promulgated that products should take different roles so that people can easily relate. Now, I'll give you the example from the book. Archetype. One archetype is Maverick. You know, the rebel, the outlaw. He had a movie. The product which we can talk about is Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson is based on a Maverick model. If you take entertainer, we don't have to talk about Rajni. Let's talk about the villain. Onida, if you remember the Onida TV, it was based on a villain model. So you can relate to the devil. Yes, and that's what he did to come in as a villain in Avargal and Mundur Mudichu. So he took different roles which people already knew from mythology, from history, from past personalities, and adapted it into his movies and gave a range where people will not forget. So archetype branding is a great branding strategy which this man adopted to ensure that he remains in a power status. Sufficient supplies. If you're a power brand and you don't go and have the product in the place where you want to buy it, what's the point? Sufficient supplies. If you look at his first 10 years, the man had completed 120 films. 10 years, 120 films is almost like 12 films a month of film. That's a lot of work. So he ensured sufficient supplies so that he stays there. People will always talk about him at every instance. The archetype branding enabled him to relate to different segments of the audience. Easily relate. Not even just relate, but easily relate. And very, very key, at the time when a brand reaches power, they start having brand wars. Pepsi and Cola, Pepsi and Coke, famous brand war. Now he could have started a brand war because by this time there were only two great entertainers in the Tamil industry, him and Kamal Hassan. He could have started a brand war, but he converted that to a fellowship. He won the audience because he wanted to ensure that he remained in power status. And he said, I'm not competing with this man, I'm in a completely different plane. And that enabled him to move to the next stage of a super brand. Super brand is, as I talked about, is like Nestle, which addresses different audience. Now, it was a period of 90s when the Khans were taking over the film audience. You know, the Salman Khan, the Amir Khan, the Shah Rukh Khan, all these Khans were coming in and invading the territory. On top of it, we had great films coming from Hollywood. And people started getting bored with Tamil films. So it was very essential for this man to ethical things which have come into their way of life. There is the Gen X and the Gen Y. Now what he did was, he came up with one film after another, which we call the Navaratnas, one after the other, to ensure that he had the Gen X, the Gen Y, and the baby boomer all coming together to come and watch his film. What are the 9 Navaratnas which we think was the emotional branding strategy? Thalapati, Mannan, Annamalai, Veera, Basha, Muttu, Arunachalam, Padayappa, Chandramukhi. With these 9 movies, the man ensured that it's just not the kids, even the elderly gentleman and the elderly lady would come to his movies. He made his films the first choice, and he converted all his fans to a wider audience. And that's how he ensured he remained in a superstar status. The last thing which he reached is even a fantastic story. And that's what we are experiencing today. It's the cult. Now when you say the cult, typically cult is considered a negative term. But it's a movement whose beliefs and practices are considered abnormal or bizarre. See, I went to buy the iPad 2 somewhere in 10. And it was just released in the US, and I happened to be there, and I thought it's a nice thing to buy. I went to the store, and I asked them, do you have stock? They said, yeah, you will get stock for tomorrow morning. So I said, what time should I come to the store? So the guy looked at me and said, sir, if I were you, I would come pretty early. So I said, how early? Your store opens at 9, can I come in at about 7? No. 6? No. Okay. 3 o'clock? No. So what do you mean? I said, people come in here previous night. Crazy. When I went there at 3 o'clock and minus 2 degrees or whatever, I found people all over the streets sleeping on sleeping bags. Crazy guys. Apple had created a cult. Harley Davidson, it's a cult. If you go to California or Los Angeles, you'll find women with tattoo marks driving huge, big Harley Davidson. It's a cult. It's a cult brand. It creates people who look very crazy to the others who don't belong to the cult. So that's what he did. He created customers who find a sense of belonging. The Rajni audience today, the Rajni mania was created. He kept on doing things which keeps the brand excited. Just like Apple releases the iPhone 2, the Apple iPad, the iPod, just like that, this guy kept people in an excitement and obsessed mood. So what he did, he didn't come on TV, he didn't come on interviews, he didn't come on press. Only way you could see Rajni was to see him on the silver screen. So he created that attraction. It generated passion, frenzy. You see the kind of things they do. They go and pour milk over his giant-sized poster. You think this is mad. But then if you belong to the cult, you think it's normal. If you think that on a first day, first show, you want to see Rajnikanth movie. I was in a First Post, livepost.com webinar just before the release of Kochalaya. And I found a couple of students who were studying probably about 9th standard, 10th standard. Back to back, first day, first show, first 7 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Back to back, they're going and watching this film. It's crazy. But that's what he created. Cult. It cuts across geography, culture, and religion. I was just talking to somebody here. I got a photograph in my Facebook update which shows a frenzy audience throwing papers on the first day, first show in a theater. If you look closely, they're all Japanese. It's in Japan. And the caption reads, hey, this is not Kasi Theatre in Chennai. So that's what he's done. He's created a cult around his name. And you cannot create a cult brand overnight. It takes a long time to come to the cult. You've got to do a lot of hard work to get to a stage where people become a part of a cult. Now, how did he do it? He obviously had a problem in Baba. He did an unprecedented thing of returning the money to the distributors, which nobody did it before. At least he was the pioneer. He didn't act a couple of years. He came up with Chandramukhi, which was a heroine-oriented subject, where he had a better role for the lady than him. And he probably did not do much of his histrionics excepting the last song. It was a major success. And in fact, in one of the launches of the movie or subsequent launches or celebrations or wherever, or I don't know where he mentioned this, he said, I am like a horse. If I fall down, I quickly get up. That was his confidence. The beginning of Rajni Mania actually happened after Chandramukhi. When Shivaji was released, people were dumbfounded that it was released at about 2,000 theatres across the world. By the time social network was already prevalent, people had started sending messages about Shivaji. From Italy, which was the previous day, to Friday was the show here, they had started on Thursday night probably there, or Saturday. Messages started coming all over Facebook and Twitter and you name it, all in the websites and blogs. People created a maniacal opening for him, which was dumbfounded in the industry, by the industry experts. The beginning of Rajni Mania started there. And look what he did again. He took a movie called Robo, which was rejected by Kamal Hassan, taken up by Shah Rukh Khan, rejected again, and he took that. Courage and determination is a great trait of a cult brand. They would keep doing things which you will never imagine they will do. I am sure nobody would take a role which was designed for somebody else, and that too, a much better actor, a much experienced actor than him, and a more popular actor across the globe. And he took that. That was the courage and determination. Here is a quote from the Western magazine when Robo was released. It says, "He is no mere actor, he is a force of nature. If Tiger had sex with a tornado, and their Tiger-nado baby got married to an earthquake, their offspring would be known as Rajnikanth." So, what is this? What is the essence of this man?
Till now you are saying that he planned the whole branding himself.
No, I'm not saying that. I have found a concordance. I'm not saying that. It just happened. But when I see every stage of his progress,
So you're fitting it.
yeah, I found a concordance. I found that there is a similarity with what major brands have done and what he has done. That's all. So if you look at it, this is where he seduces. How does he keep the cult alive? The first thing you will notice is that everybody talks about his humility. Ladies and gentlemen, that's also been my personal experience. And when we wrote this book, we went to him to show it to him, and showcase it, said that we have written it. We're nobody. I'm nobody in the industry or whatever. I'm not a previous author, I'm not a popular guy. We were just common man. We went to their office, sought an appointment. He gave us an appointment, told us to come at 1 o'clock. And being Rajni fans, we were already there at 12:15, 12:30, the gates. Walked into his office at 12:40. We were waiting. The man walks in at 12:50. Comes in, he sees us. He says, "Oh, you guys are already here? Am I late?" Now, I don't think anybody can play act that. It comes naturally. And he was sitting and listening to us. And at the end of all the presentation we did to him, he said, I don't think I deserve all this. Now, I don't think anybody would play act this. This humility which people are talking about is very natural from him. And I think the respect for this man is increased because of his plain, down-to-earth humility. Now, he's created fun as a lifestyle. Look what Apple has done. Apple, Google, everybody has created this big lifestyle. Today, every product is trying to create a lifestyle around it. That's where his trait is. Rajni Jokes has come because of a lifestyle around Rajni. He didn't get bothered. He was not bothered at all. He was, in fact, I think, enjoying it because he was creating that fun as a lifestyle concept, of keeping this maniacal crowd together. The respect for this man is increased because of his plain, down-to-earth humility. Now, he's created fun as a lifestyle. Look what Apple has done. Apple, Google, everybody has created this big lifestyle. Today, every product is trying to create a lifestyle around it. That's where his trait is. Rajni Jokes has come because of a lifestyle around Rajni. He didn't get bothered.
He was not bothered at all. He was in fact, I think, enjoying it because he was creating that fun as a lifestyle concept, keeping this maniacal crowd together. The only joke I have, Mr. Madhu, is that Mr. Rajnikanth was traveling in Gujarat and he ordered tea from a chai wala.
Rest
You
is
get it?
history.
The rest is history. So, personal traits, retaining the customer, and then emotional bonding. Now, he came on some program about a couple of years back, and he comes and tells, oh, that's when he recovered from his ill health. And he comes and tells, guys, stop smoking, stop drinking. And then the crowd goes berserk, you know. I believe that people who are smoking, they stop their cigarettes down. That is the kind of impact he creates in this cult. Anyway, move on. No wonder he's got the entertainment of the decade, but it's a very key thing which Big B has talked about him. Big B is his role model. Wherever he says Amitabh Bachchan is my role model. But let's see what Amitabh Bachchan says. I'll read it to you because it's a big, long paragraph. Promoting films has become as important and time-consuming as making them. Rajnikanth never indulges in this practice, the practice of promotions. And on occasion when we talk to him informally, he often questions me as to why I do this. It's like selling yourself like a product, he often tells me. We laugh over it. But I explain to him that he is Rajnikanth, he doesn't need it. For him, it happens on its own. For lesser mortals like us, we need to excite audiences, propel them to take interest, and get them into the theatres. Rajni's cult doesn't require that. So, to conclude, is Rajni a brand? I think so. What he's done is, he has, just like creating a company which is distinct and separate from the individual, he has slowly positioned himself to a brand called Rajni. Definitely he's woven a great story around it, with clear strategies, which we don't know, sir, whether he has done it very, very strategically. But it looks that he has calculated some of the things which he has done.
Maybe the later part of the business.
I think initially also. Brands is all about lessons for others. You take Apple, you take Mercedes-Benz, you take BMW. It's all about lessons for others. Even the local brands like Nirma, you take Dabur, you take Himalaya. It's all lessons for others. And that's what he's also told us. And brands are all about creativity. Don't you think that by using creativity you can create a brand? You've got to do a lot of hard work. And that is also demonstrated in his chronicles. And we think that any branding strategy which we have gone through, I think I must have gone through at least for the 50 to 60 books on brand management. And anything I read, I can relate to what this man has done. So, finally, if you look at what is a brand, when we remember an object or a feeling, you should associate a brand with it. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you this question. I will do this first. So, if it's animated movie, it's not Coachella yet, it's Disney. Okay? Bandage? Coffee? Credit card?
Pizza.
Ketchup?
Heinz.
Okay. Photocopy?
Xerox.
Premium car?
Mercedes.
Alright. Razor?
Direct.
Wonderful. Search engine?
Google.
Sound? Wonderful. Tennis?
Who'd you go?
I would say Wimbledon. Tissue paper? Wonderful. And I say, if it's entertainment, it's Grand Rajni.